Thanks so much for having me this afternoon. It is hot, it's a Saturday afternoon, and I'm not doing PowerPoint, right? Because we don't need death by PowerPoint. What I'm going to do is tell you stories. And if I could choose any title, it would be Chief Tinkering Officer, because I love to tinker and create change. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. I started WomHub, which is an ecosystem enabler to support women and girls all along the STEM value chain. And for us, STEM is science, technology, engineering, mining, and manufacturing. I then started a cybersecurity company called CyberFence, and we use AI to be able to create and understand vulnerabilities on your digital footprint. But usually when I love tech, but whenever I tell people I also own a group of Turkish restaurants, they get more excited about the restaurants. It's a shameless plug for Saray at the waterfront, which my husband and I co-own. And we sold Sultan Shisha in Istanbul about 18 months ago, so I'm an exited founder, which is the holy grail of entrepreneurs, I guess. But I want to talk to you about why I became an ecosystem builder. And the story actually starts 2 decades ago, next year, as a female engineering student going into the engineering industry. And I was in New York last year for Climate Week, and I met one of my clients, and she said, "Naadiya, why do you do what you do?" And I said, "I build out of pain." And she said, "Oh, that's a weird thing to say." And I said, "Every time I experienced a pain in the industry, I built something better." And she said, "What would happen if you built out of joy?" And honestly, I can't even think what that would look like, because it would probably be like something with my kids, or like traveling, or a way to make me sleep better at night. I don't know. But pain, and then I thought about, why do I experience the pain constantly in our engineering and tech industry? And actually, when they started posting on LinkedIn about Ummah Tech and this idea of Medina, about inclusion, about the ideals of the Prophet, I thought, that's why I feel the pain. Because the idea of inclusion, the idea that when we go on Umrah and Hajj, and I had the absolute privilege of doing so a couple of years ago at the Miss Global Forum, I went to the forum and then I went to perform in Umrah. I was 7.5 months pregnant. They wouldn't let me get on a plane until I signed a waiver to say that if I have the baby on the flight, like Saudi Airlines is not going to help me. I was like, cool, I'll push this baby out myself. I'm an independent woman. I can do it all, right? And when I went on Umrah, it was absolutely amazing because there were people from everywhere around the world converging for one singular goal. And when I think about ourselves, trying to converge on one singular goal seems so far because we're always the other. And it's funny because I was speaking to my son this morning, and he said, and I thought we'd gotten, the racism, the sexism out, but we haven't, because he said to me, "We got somebody new working for us, and it's a white." And I said, "Oh, okay. So what color are you?" And he's like, "I'm other." I said, "Oh, okay, what color am I?" He's like, "Mama, you're also white." And I said, "Oh, okay, I'm white." And he's like, "What color is your brother?" He's like, he's white, but sometimes he's other. Right? So the idea of 8-year-olds kind of trying to understand where they fit in the world, right? Which means that we haven't got inclusion correct. And I said, "Does it matter whether I'm white or other?" And he said, "No, because everybody should be equal." And I thought, that's what I wanted to do. And so, yes, with my 8-year-old, we're almost getting there, but that's not a universal truth. And so when I think about when we started, and I always think about foresight, hindsight, and insight. Right? And so I stand here and it looks like I had the foresight to build an entire ecosystem, but actually hindsight is 2020. I was not that intuitive. I started 20 years ago building female engineering and tech talent with the simple idea that there were just not enough women who looked like me, who sounded like me in the engineering and tech space. We started running hackathons before the word hackathon even existed. And we got engineering and tech companies to pay for all of this. We work with some of the largest companies around the world. I think my favorite one was one of the largest FMCG companies in the world, and a Formula One racing team. And I traveled around the world building high-precision engineering teams in race locations just before Formula One teams would arrive. So we were in the US, in Brazil, Mexico, the UK, and Southeast Asia. And the lesson I learned in working in many different countries was that talent was universal, but opportunity was not. And so how are we able to solve some of the most wicked challenges we have in the world, like climate change, inequality, war, if we weren't including a massive amount of our population, including women, people of color, all the others? And so we started building talent builders, and have worked with about 150,000 women and girls in over 33 countries. But that's not enough, because we had I'm not going to clap for mediocrity. Don't clap, because it's 15% of our goal. So I'm not going to clap until we get to 100. I'm just like, I will not celebrate mediocrity, okay? Our goal is 1 million girls through STEM education, and we're only 15%, so I'm pretty hard on my team. I'm terrible to work for. And so our building talent was really important, because it was really about how do we create the people that are actually going to run our economies. You can't have economic growth and development without the right kind of talent. And so in 2019, I saw AI and cybersecurity being the two big drivers for growth and opportunity. And so we started building AI and cybersecurity training and development program for young people. And I had this crazy idea of going, why don't we just get AI avatars to run the programs in 2019? And so our courses were actually run by AI way back in 2019. And so I've always think about the things that are completely possible now was completely possible then, but we didn't mainstream it and we didn't have access. And while WomHub was doing amazing stuff in the talent space, as entrepreneurs, we faced challenges as well. And we thought, you know what? As female engineers, we face the challenge of getting into the industry, the support, the networks. As entrepreneurs, we're facing the same thing. So let's build better, because I build out of pain. And so we started to build incubators and accelerators to support female founders in STEM. We work with entrepreneurs in some of the hardest industries, from open cast mining to be able to leverage AI for facial recognition, for identity. And what was common thread here is that there isn't a lack of ideas. There's really a lack of being able to mainstream it on a platform and give them access to market, give them access to the right kind of mentoring and the right kind of money. And so this has been really the journey around how do we able to support and develop ecosystems by first building the talent and then building the entrepreneurs. And in this journey of building entrepreneurs, just after COVID, I was stuck at home at my dining room table, and I was doing an internal all hands with our team. And my son was 3 at the time, and he had a rabbit. Now, I'm just going to take a step away from the tech to talk about parenting for just 1 second. Never get your child a rabbit, because let me going to tell you what's going to happen. His name was Hoppy. He was into tech. And when I say he was into tech, he ate the Wi-Fi cable, he ate my Apple charger, he ate my MacBook charger. He's also an outdoorsy rabbit, so he ate the outdoor furniture and the door. Okay? But so get back into, just that was a sidebar. I'm sitting there at an all hands, and on the table is my son and Hoppy. Hoppy's about to eat his second MacBook cable. Right? I'm really surprised that rabbit didn't die from shock, but Allah knows best. And I'm trying to keep a straight face, trying to be professional with my team, trying to give the mom look, the look that your mom gives when you know you're in trouble, but you but kids are perceptive and they know they can get away with anything when you're on a call, right? And so I tell my team, sorry guys, I just want to show you what's happening right now in my house. And I turn my screen and they see this and everybody thinks it's funny, it's a joke, right? And I realized in that moment that it was a human moment for me with my team. But we don't have the luxury of having kids disrupt us, because if I was on a client call, they'll tell me, Naadiya is not professional enough. Naadiya can't manage her kids and her work, so why is she even in the business of doing what she needs to be doing? She needs to get her shit together. Oh, sorry, I'm not supposed to say shit. So, and in realizing that, we don't physically have space. And when I talk about, when we talk about the mosques, and what I love about Cape Town is that the mosques have facilities for ladies. And we talk about this ummah that we must have in this Medina, but this Medina and the mosque don't have space for women always. And the women are usually delegated to a small mat under a tree far away from where everybody else is networking and connecting. And so how can we have a ummah when we don't actually have space for the women who bring the Ummah to life. And so for me, it was like, how do I create this space? And we built the first female-focused innovation hub in the world. It has lactation rooms, menopause lounges, a co-play space for kids. And then I thought about it, and everybody's got a tech hub. And I said, what makes tech hubs tech hubs? And they said, oh, because tech people sit in the hub, so it's a tech hub. I said, no. I had this idea of a tech gym, because tech is expensive. So I found the biggest tech companies in the world, and I said, give me your tech me up, and bring it into the space. Because we need access. And those digital tech boards, VR glasses are expensive. And so on another time, I'll tell you how I got Cisco to give me a VR glasses and a PlayStation in our hubs. But what was amazing about bringing in the latest technology is we're a proper tech hub. So you come into our space, we have a secure fintech lab, a full-stack observability lab, a VR lab, and I love that this is a tech space, so everybody knows what I'm talking about, and I don't have to explain what all of that means. But it's proper tech, and we're democratizing access to technology. And so when we think about the ecosystem, it's around how do we access deep technology with some of the biggest tech companies in the world. It's a space like you'll never see anywhere before, and I invite you all to come and visit me at Ummah in Greenpoint. But in building out the hub, we needed to raise capital. And everybody said, oh, you know what, we just need to see another year of good financials. I had Unilever, De Beers, Cisco as my clients. I still wasn't good enough for the financial services institutions to give me money. I was not bankable. I've got an engineering degree. I'm a serial entrepreneur. Basically own the best restaurant in the country for Turkish food. I mean, what more does banks want, right? And I said, if we can't raise the capital ourselves, what does every other entrepreneur who doesn't have access have? And unfortunately, tech, now tech does build itself, because if you vibe code, it does. But it requires capital. And so I said, that's it, I'm going to start a bank. But turns out starting a bank is really hard. So we decided to start a VC fund, not much easier. And it's a $30 million fund that is female-focused, tech-enabled, Pan-African. We're one of the first gender-led funds on the African continent. And nobody wanted to invest in us because we're first-time female fund managers. And so I was like, well, but we've built businesses that, you were clapping for my 150,000 in 33 countries. Why wouldn't you give me money? And it was about how do we convince people that investing in other is a good idea. And so people wanted to give it to us as charity. We were like, no, we want to make returns on investment because that's what investors want to see. And the first $1 million, we just asked people like ourselves, all the others. And others gave us money. And so our first $1 million, we did 16 deals in 8 different countries. And VC is just one asset class. We've now got an anchor investor into the fund, and we've got a few other institutional investors that have put money in. We're halfway there to closing the fund. But for me, not everybody is VC backable. How do we take these absolutely incredible ideas and be able to give them financing? And we can talk about Sharia-compliant financing on another day. That's not what I'm here to speak about. But currently, entrepreneurs raising capital are raising at between 25 and 40% interest rates. That's a norm. I was like, this whole system is broken. And the other day, I was speaking to a fund, and they were telling me their fund structure and how they do deals. And I was like, oh, no, this is Sharia-compliant funding. And they were like, no, it's not Sharia-compliant. It's revenue-based financing based on a very fixed interest rate. And I was like, no, it's Sharia-compliant investing. And I was just like, people just going to steal everything from us, right? So I was like, why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we pooling our capital? Because ecosystems need money. And so we started something called the demand-driven financing model. And it's a really fancy term, and when you want to get people to put you on stages around the world to talk about fancy things, you give it a fancy name. So I got this fancy name. The IFC asked me to come and speak at COP last year in Azerbaijan, and I just really wanted to go to Azerbaijan, so I needed a fancy name. So we called this, and basically it's AI-powered. We feed it all your financial information, and then it tells you whether you're a good investment or not. And then we have a human in the loop that looks at it and goes, okay, cool, this is definitely a good investment. And then we started to use philanthropic money to be able to invest in startups, to take the risk, because we need risky capital for big ideas. And so when you step back, what we've built is talent, entrepreneurship, spaces, and capital. And those are the 4 things that you need to get to Medina. Thank you.